This time I'll call for the return of service. Mr. Cochran.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we receive the return of service.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Rotella. Any discussion about the return of service? Seeing none, then all in favor of accepting the return of service, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Passed unanimous. With no opposition. The first 30 minutes of each council meeting are reserved for public speaking. At this time, I'll ask any member of the public that wishes to address the council about an item on the agenda. Please come forward, and please, you must speak about an item that's specifically on the agenda, and you must be a resident and or a taxpayer of the city. So with that, we'll start with Mrs. Wong.
Lynn Waller, 83 Highland Avenue in Danbury. First, I'd like to thank the rank and file because I believe they have stepped up to the plate and are taking less in their salary. I have not seen the contract, and so I'm not really sure about it, but I believe they have or all would be here. Also wanted to ask the school administrators, after seeing in the newspaper the salaries they all make, I wondered if there was any way they could give back some of their raises, as well as the rank and file. I think it's only fair if you're asking the people lower on the totem pole that the guys higher give back as well. And as for the charter, one, I'm very pleased with all the work that went into it. I'm really pleased with the amount of public speaking they allowed so that we all had our voices and were allowed to address the points that we wanted to talk about. I'm against the 4-year term for the elected officials. I still feel that the 4-year term is too long. I think that 2 years has worked well for the city for a very long period of time, and I would like to see it continue. I'd still believe the ballot will be much too long with 56 positions on it. The 1 year, every 4 years, there will be no elections at all if you go with the 4-year term the way the charter is set up at the moment. And I would like to ask you, and I don't know if you can, if you're going to accept the 4-year term, is there any way you could stagger it so that maybe the wards won 1 year and then 2 years later the at-large people run, or that the zoning and at-large run, so that it's a more evenly distributed ballot instead of 56 positions all at one time. I don't know if legally you're allowed to do that tonight, but I think it's something that should be in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wong. Mr. DeSilva.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. My name is Joseph DeSilva. I reside at 17 Mountainville Avenue in Danbury. It feels somewhat like a bizarre version of Groundhog Day. It seems that we were here not very long ago talking about the charter to the committee of the whole, and at that night, I seem to see a very strong and overwhelming procession of people opposed to 4-year terms. This council voted later on that evening that 4-year terms was not in the best interest of the citizens of Danbury. It goes back to the Charter Revision Commission, and I will commend the Charter Revision Commission, first of all, with all of the work they did on this in toto, and certainly with the way they operated their meeting last week. And I was at that meeting, as were most, if not all, of the members of this council. And they did allow, as Ms. Waller said, a large amount of time for the public to speak prior, and then there was a very long and extensive back and forth with the members of the council. Then, at the end of the meeting, unconscionably, 2 members of the Charter Revision Commission say, I'm opposed to 4-year terms. I don't think they're a good idea, but I'm going to vote for them tonight and send it back to the Common Council so they can send them to the voters. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is not their job, nor is that yours. The Charter Revision Commission was designed to draft a proposed revised charter. That then comes to you for comment, goes back to them, comes back to you, and it is up to you to approve the final product to go to the voters. It is neither their job nor your job to leave it up to the voters to do their work. I encourage you to maintain the same position you had not even a month ago in this very chamber. 4-year terms is bad for the city of Danbury. It is neither warranted nor necessary. Vermont and New Hampshire have governors who serve only 2-year terms. The city of Houston is the 4th largest city in the United States. Their mayor serves a 2-year term. 435 members of the United States House of Representatives serve 2-year terms. Please don't anybody tell me it is more difficult to be a common council member or mayor of Danbury than it is to be the mayor of Houston, the governor of New Hampshire, the governor of Vermont, or a member of Congress. It's not. That position is not tenable.
That's debatable. Just kidding.
Touche, Your Honor. And I'll close with, there is a red herring that I am afraid will come forth tonight, to leave it up to the voters. It's not your job. Your job is to approve the document. Do your job. Charter Revision should have done their job. If you're opposed to it, why are you passing it on to the council? To pass it on to the voters. That's passing the buck for something you don't even believe in. Leave it where you said it, not even a month ago. It's worked before, it'll work in the future. There's no reason to retrench from where you yourselves were as a body, not even a month ago. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, members.
Mr. McCombs.
Gary Goncalves, 55 Lawrence Avenue, Danbury. Thank you, Your Honor, and good evening, members of the council. First, I'd like to thank the Charter Revision Committee for all their hard work and for keeping the best interests of the city and the population at heart. Having served on a number of committees and boards, I appreciate your efforts. I know it's an unsung job. I need to tell you that I'm standing before you tonight in a state of disappointment. Based upon the last council committee meeting as a whole that met on this charter revision issue and the predominantly public outcry against 4-year terms, I'm very surprised that it was approved by the Charter Revision Committee. The citizens of Danbury need the ability to renew and reaffirm our confidence in the leadership of this community every 2 years. I would hope that this 4-year term amendment is rejected by the council. If not, I can only hope that this amendment is separated from the whole of the other changes to the charter so it can be assessed and voted on independently in the November election. Thank you and good luck in your decision process.
Any other member of the public wish to address the council this evening? Mr. Lees.
Bruce Lees, I live at 157 Westfield Avenue Extension, and I want to thank you tonight for coming out, Your Honor, and members of the council. I just want to voice my opinion against having the 4-year term. I think it takes away the right of the voter to actually vote. I mean, every 2 years they get to vote, and now you're going to extend it to 4 years. You're going to take 1 vote away from every 4 years. Also, having worked the polls for the last 10 years, I find it's very confusing, the newer ballots. With 56 questions that were on there that Ms. Waller reminded me of, they were just adding 2 more. And again, having that second question on there with a yes or no is sometimes confusing to the voters. Thank you.
Any other member of the public wish to address the council this evening? Ms. Robinson.
Robinson, Ladies Glasgow Street. I had the pleasure of attending a circle of the Charter Revision meetings or watching them on TV, so I have good knowledge of what happened there, and I recall seeing the first public hearing that was done, and I don't recall there anybody speaking in favor or proposing to change the term limits on the common council from 2 years to 4 years. I don't recall any member of the public expressing a desire to change the term limits from 2 years to 4 years before it was proposed. Overwhelmingly, the public has come out against this changing of the term limits from 2 years to 4 years. So I'm speaking here in opposition to it. I don't think it's a good idea to do. Like Mr. De Silva said, we have congressmen, we have state senators, we have state representatives who run every 2 years. And I think it's a good system that's worked now. And looking at the past mayors, if you're a good mayor, you're doing a good job, then you get reelected, and that's the way it should be. So I'm against it, and for the people who say leave it up to the voters, I don't think that's the right thing to do. And if you feel so strongly about it, don't separate the questions. Set up the whole thing as one document. Let's have up and down vote on it, on the whole thing. Because I think if you separate it, you're just showing that you don't really support it or you don't think it's going to pass. So if you feel that way, and I think you do because you overwhelmingly rejected it, and you sent it back to the charter revision, let's just get it over with and just cut it out. And because a lot of other stuff that's in the charter is very good. They did an excellent job. They took a long time doing it, and I commend them for that. And I just think that this is the wrong thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Anybody else wish to address the council this evening? Mr. Anderson.
Frank Anders, 9 Terry Glen in Danbury. Just a little bit different perspective. The voters expect you to make decisions that are in their best interest, and that's what you're doing. At the end of the day, when the ballot comes out and the voters walk into the ballot box, their expectation is that what you're presenting them is what you think is best for the city. So one would hope that whatever you decide tonight isn't a negative saying, well, we don't want to make the decision, let's pass it on to the voters, but rather come up with what you really deep down think is the best decision and send that to the voters. There wouldn't be anything worse than you're sending a false message that this is what we think is best for the city, expecting the citizens to make that decision with their understanding that what they've been presented with is the best, and therefore that's what I'll vote for. You're going to get a lot of people voting for whatever you present because they think you've done your jobs properly. Separately, a little bit different topic, kind of referring to what Mrs. Waller mentioned. Tough times. A lot of us will be losing our jobs. And that's no reason that we should hurt anybody who's coming up for a contract. But I think it's interesting that we went forward with sort of a normal contract for our executives in the education world, but not for the people who are face-to-face with the kids, our next generation leaders. Something to think about. You can't change what's already been done now, but think about that for the future. There's a widening gap in business between middle management, lower management, and upper management. You all see it, you all read about it, you all hear about it. I don't think it would be appropriate for us to have the same situation exist in the world of education. Thank you.
Any other member of the public wish to address the council this evening? Seeing none, then we'll move on to upstairs.
Thank you, Your Honor, distinguished members of the Common Council. Good to see you tonight. My name is Joe Taversack, 37 Clearview Avenue, Danbury. I'm here today to address the Common Council regarding the proposal to change our charter. Specifically, I'd like to speak on item number 2 of your agenda, and I'm really focusing my concern on the change to 4-year terms. And I've given this some thought, and what I really think what my focus would be about if I were in your shoes. I deal with a lot of difficult votes and feel torn at times. And so I can appreciate the situation you're in. I know the Charter Commission has done a lot of good work here too, and I appreciate your position. But I think that my focus would be the process, not, put political parties aside. We're all going to be gone someday, and what this issue is really about, to me, is the democratic process in our city and what's best for the average voter in the city of Danbury. That's the question that I would be wrangling with myself. And having given it some thought and thinking about where we are today and where government reforms are going, I think that the vote for the average voter would be to reject the 4-year term for a few reasons. One, I think a 4-year term, although it sounds nice if I had a 4-year term, it would favor incumbents. And what I'm seeing today in at least the state legislature, we've dealt with campaign finance reform. And one of the public policy goals underlying the reform that we went through was to give newcomers to the process a chance. Shortly before my time as a state rep, it was, if you were an incumbent, you just had to throw one party up in Hartford and you'd receive enough lobbyist checks to basically stop fundraising. And your opponent, would be lucky if they could gather together, $5,000, $10,000 in local contributions. I think that a 4-year term would favor incumbents in that it would give them such a long period of time to build up a war chest that it really would discourage new people from coming into the process. And that affects us all. It affects, parties will come and go, they'll be in power, out of power. That affects us all. It will also diminish the average voter's ability to participate and exercise their right to vote. That might be the strongest argument. My greatest concern is that people are only going to be able to get out there and vote for their city officials every 4 years. Do we really want to do that? And that's a pretty powerful consideration. Another thought that I had is, we all know that serving political office is tough. It's not easy. It's not some cushy job. Sometimes it feels thankless. But do we really want to distance ourselves more from getting out there, banging on doors? It's campaign season again. You got to get out there, knock on doors, talk to people, see what's on their minds, see how they're doing. That's one of the most important things that we do. Do we really want to do that less? Is that going to make us more effective leaders? I just don't think that it is. And I think that that's an important consideration. Really, I think I've covered all my points. I appreciate what you're doing here in taking this on. I think the Charter Commission has done a great job. And I appreciate the time you're taking considering their revisions. I would ask that you consider rejecting the 4-year term and opt for the 2-year term. I think it's served the city well over the years. I really don't see the need to change that. In the alternative, if that's something that can't happen, I think it would be better for the voters to split the 4-year term from the remaining proposed charter revisions, because I think there has been some great work here. And I think that if the voters could deal with that issue that's significant and different in its own right, separate from the other changes, that would be a good idea. But thank you for your time, and good luck.
Mr. Havasek, any other members of the public wish to address?
Good evening. My name is Ellen Farrar. I live at 26 High Rise Road in Danbury, Connecticut. And I am the average voter that he just talked about. And I would like to say that I think it is extremely important that we do not go to 4 years. I work out of town. I don't work in Danbury. And how I find out about what's going on and keep in touch and everything is when you guys come knocking at my door and tell me what you believe in and tell me what's important in this city. I think to put it off to 4 years is not fair. I think the average voter appreciates your efforts to come to us and talk to us and tell us what's going on in the city. And I'm a little confused because I thought we voted that the council was in favor of the 4 years. But I guess it went back to the charter revision and then it's coming back to you. I hope that you will all maintain your support of the 2 years. It's really important to the average voters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the public wish to address the council this evening? Any other member of the public? Yes.
Hi, Linda Galloway, 231 Thaddeus, Danbury, Connecticut. I would like to support and offer my support to Joe Tabersak's comments. I think he expressed my opinions quite clearly and quite succinctly. I'd like to add just one thought of my own. I think given the pain that many of us have gone through over the last 12 months, and I think the pain and economic difficulties that we see in the year ahead, I think this is absolutely the wrong time to make the voter more removed from the people who represent us in government than ever. Thank you.
Ms. Galloway. Any other members of the public wish to address the council this evening? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on with our regular scheduled meeting.